Hi there, it's Mark, and welcome back to Taking Territory, where I'm doing another video essay. This time on the question of why are men lost? Just last week, I heard about a man who passed away under tragic circumstances, and whenever this happened, the same old refrain, the same old call came out, and it was, of course, if only he had talked to someone. Maybe, just maybe, talking to someone might have helped. It's possible. At the very least, I think it could have bought him some time. But here's the question I find myself reflecting upon whenever I hear a tragic story such as that. If a struggling friend had come to me, or comes to you, say, in the next day or so, what is it that we would find ourselves saying? What might we be able to say that could actually change their mind? When we think about our conversations with other men, how deep actually do we really go? Most of the time, I'd suggest we stay on the surface. It's all banter, sports, quick laughs, bit of repartee. However, if something serious does come up, do we truly take the time to listen? Do we really take the time? Do we want to get involved? Or typically, probably even what I would do if I'm telling the truth, I'd offer some half-baked solution, probably tell him something that he's already thought about in the past and likely dismissed. And then I go on with my day thinking that, well, yeah, my job's done, I helped a friend out there. But the problem is, as I've mentioned on these blogs in the past, I believe that there is too many men who are living quiet lives of desperation with no means of actually communicating or expressing just what it is that they're feeling, and sometimes they don't want to, or they're not able to, or they just can't articulate it. And certainly I was definitely one of those guys until I think I found my mission a number of years ago, but I got incredibly stuck after leaving the army. And that's one of the reasons why I want to talk about things over the next few videos in relation to this. And I want to talk about brotherhood, I want to talk about manhood, and I want to talk about purpose. And actually really get to the crux of what it means to be a man and how we relate to each other, and probably most importantly, how do we find meaning in this life in which we're living. I think the first premise that I would actually make, which is the hook upon which I hang everything else in my philosophy, is that men were built to rule. Now, this isn't necessarily over a kingdom or an empire, but it's about governing and managing our responsibilities that we've been given. We've been created to bear weight, to sacrifice for a mission, to shoulder burdens, and I think that too many of us have lost our way on that mission, or have never quite found ourselves in the pathway of mission. And the older we get, sometimes whenever we do come off the road or come off the line, it can be very hard to get back on track. And I think one of the things, that's not the only thing, and maybe I'm talking to a very particular subset of people here, it's the challenge of if you work in a modern corporate workplace. I think over the years, we can definitely say that men have been turned into breadwinners. It's not the multi-dimensional household leaders that we once used to be. And success has it's so much about economic survival these days. And it's changed, even probably in the last 100 years or so. I was listening to someone talking about this recently, but success is no longer seen in terms of stewardship of family and faith. And I think the modern workplace does have an impact on this, and how it rewards efficiency and discipline and all that specialism. Now, of course, these are all good things, but I think they've reduced men into titles rather than measuring us according to our character and leadership. And I would say, especially in the corporate workplace, for many men, work is absolutely soulless. Whenever you think about it, what is it? We're sending emails to each other, building spreadsheets, and there's a load of bureaucratic nonsense. We're no longer builders or warriors anymore in a sense that is tangible. Yeah, and I think instead of greasing the axle as we feel that we want to be, I think many of us are feeling that we're actually sand inside the gears of a machine, and we're not even helping it be more efficient. We are blocking the flow, and we just don't get to see the outworking of the effort that we're putting in. And then again, the other sad bit is whenever we get home, for too many men, home is no longer a refuge. we're controlled. I think many of us are unappreciated. We're left walking on eggshells around wives who seem perpetually dissatisfied. And so when we add all this up, it seems like the meaning of life in many respects is taken out of it, and it feels like we're pouring into a cup with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much we give, it's never full. And this is where I think modern man, or people like ourselves, we find ourselves at a crossroads and we ask, what is this all about? I'm quite metaphorical, and this is how I imagine it. It's like a man driving down a long grey motorway. It's a soulless stretch of road. It's endless. It's numbing. There's signs overhead that read, just keep on going. Maybe it gets better. Deep down, though, we know that it's probably not going to get better. Now, maybe, if we're vigilant, just out of the corner of our eye, we'll spot an off-ramp. There'll be a narrow, winding path leading to a road that we've never been down before, something unknown, and there's a sign on it, and it's barely legible, but it'll read something like, another way. Now, unlike the motorway, this path, it looks rough, it's steep inclines, it's jagged edges, there's thick fog, it obscures what lies in the distance. It certainly doesn't look easy, but it's a real option, and it's maybe an option that interests us. And the question is, do we stay along that motorway, enduring the dull ache of daily dissatisfaction, or do we take that off-ramp and risk the struggle to maybe, just maybe, find something worth fighting for? Look, I know you guys don't know me, but I do come from a place of some experience and some struggle. Over the years, I have put in the hard yards, particularly this last 15 years. Now, I will admit it's got a little easier more recently, but I've been ground down, I've been spat out, but yet here I am, I'm still standing. I look back to my early 20s and I joined the forces, as I said. It gave me a lot of purpose. I knew exactly who I was and I knew what I was meant to do. Then after about 10 years, I became a civilian and suddenly everything changed. I lost my way financially. I was nearly bankrupted. And I, probably for a long number of years after that, I lived without a joined up mission, and I went from being grafted into what was a well-oiled system into what felt like floating in nothingness, being bobbed around aimlessly like a cork in the water. And for years, my life became just about survival. It was just about making it from month to month to month. And I know that dark night of the soul, but through faith and a sense of responsibility and my belief that my trials counted for something, I did somehow manage to keep on going. And in particular, I can say these last 2 years, I've been excited to rediscover my mission. And I now know where I think I belong. I'm just on that off ramp. I'm going up to the first hedge, as it were, and I'm working my way through. But I hope that my future lies very much in helping broken and hurting men in the community, and I am doing that on a physical day-to-day basis in a number of cases through counselling, training and working that I've been doing. And I hope over the next number of months to bring some of that wisdom to this channel. And one of the things I can say is, if you were to ask almost any man, or maybe any of the men I've been speaking to, what is it that he actually wants? What are his best hopes? Many of them would reply with something like the word, I just want peace. But here's the thing that I'm realizing, and I've learned it through my own experience. You can't have peace unless you have waged and won a war. Now, I find there's three types of guys in this world. Now, you can break anything down to any number of anything, but in this case, I'm going to say three types of guys. They're those who don't realize that they're even in a war. They're those who won't fight because they're too scared to take action. And finally, I would say that third group, they're those, probably like most of us, who are fighting the wrong battles as a result of mistakes that we've made or bad judgment, and we're taking a lot of unnecessary blows. But here's the thing, men need war. It strengthens us. Now, hopefully, actually, what you've realised by now is I'm not talking about physical war. That is tragedy. I mean war in the moral, psychological, and the spiritual sense. Because a man who isn't fighting against the chaos and the darkness in his own life isn't really living. Because meaning, as we can interpret it, is found through getting stuck in to where the battle rages hardest in our own life. Now, this could be any area, and every man will have his own things, but it could be addiction, it could be laziness, it could be dealing with his confidence issues, it could be about hard decisions that he needs to make. And probably as well, what is important is once we're getting all of that dialed in, we need to be thinking beyond ourselves. So many of us are solipsistic and we just think about ourselves. Now, this video here is just hopefully the beginning, and in the next video I want to look about how a man can build unshakable confidence in this age of anxiety. How do we go about shaping a life and we live confidently in it, especially when we look around and everybody else is losing their crap? How do we get ahead with some assurance? And I want to think about how we fight back as men in a world that wants us passive, it wants us weak, and it wants us lost. How do we reclaim what the enemy has taken from us over this last number of years? And let us make no mistake, this is not just a battle for ourselves, but we are wrestling, I believe, with something much bigger, and our actions today and in the future will shape the destiny of our children and those who come after us. And we've been put on this earth at a time such as this to play our role, to do our job, whatever that looks like. As men, we are called to action, and I hope to help you get there and to take some action. Catch you in the next video.